So hello and welcome to the Expat Pod. My name is James, your host, and today I'm joined by Richard. And Richard, we met via, I think I got an email with your information on you were interested in being a guest on this podcast, which is wonderful to hear, and wonderful to hear that, the podcast is spreading further and further afield into different avenues. So for me, that was really humbling to hear and very, very pleasing and great that I get to speak to yourself about your time abroad. So if you'd like to just give the listeners a kind of a quick overview of your whistle-stop tour of where you've lived and where you're from, that'd be great.
James, I can't thank you enough. I'm so happy to be on the Expat Pod. It's one of those things where I really feel I'm 100% qualified. It's not like a long shot to get on. I'm originally from Northeast Philly, and I graduated the proud Abington High School, for those that know. I decided to be a Spanish major, so I went to the University of Arizona in Tucson. My junior year, I lived abroad. I lived in Spain, so I had a chance to taste being an expat for at least 11 months. And then in August of 2000, a very good friend of mine offered me a 1 in a million opportunity to move to Costa Rica, beautiful paradise in Central America. So I took it. I got past my parents' guilt. I was adding on to the momentum that I had being a bilingual linguist and a communicator. And by keeping an open mind and having patience, I decided to shed some skin and move here. And so I have been here for 23 years. I married the girl of my dreams. After leaving my friend's center after 4 years, I learned the business from the inside out, not the top down. And so 16 years ago, I decided to throw my hat in the ring, James, and I started my call center. And here we are today. And so it's a journey of twists and turns, but it was a long shot that hit. And that's why I'm here sharing these ideas with you and your audience today.
Wonderful, thank you. And we'll get into the main bulk of the podcast. So hello and welcome to section 1 of the podcast, all about getting there. So Richard, this is where we kind of dive into the whys of your desire to live abroad and then the how as well, in terms of what you needed to put in place to be able to make that a reality in terms of everything before you left. So we can start off with your time abroad in Spain, because that's, maybe what ignited your desire to live abroad more, because obviously there's an origin to everything. You're talking about learning Spanish. Was that the kind of reason why you wanted to learn Spanish? Was you always wanted to live abroad in a Spanish-speaking country? Or?
Well, prior to that year in Spain, I realized that unless you throw me in the deep end and I have no choice 24/7, there's no way someone like myself with my maturity, structure, and discipline was going to learn Spanish. As much as I loved it and had motivation, I really had to live it. And going to class in college and practicing around Tucson, it was good, but it was keeping me at an intermediate level. But anyway, let's talk about August. No, I think it was July of 93 until June of 94. I was in Europe, and I didn't come home during Christmas break, so I had 2 months to travel Europe with a Eurail pass. And this is before cell phones and email addresses, so, my folks were lucky to get a phone call once a week just to let you know I'm still alive. You had to be resourceful. You had to be smart, not stupid, responsible, but still have the best time of your life. What a time. What a time. I had 55-minute conversations a day. I can't tell you how many books I've read, especially with the muscle memory. You start trading and pounding out those books. Meet people from everywhere in the world, and everyone's beautiful. It's bohemic. People share recipes and thoughts and ideas and clothes and momentums, and people are the first ones to open doors and help you lift a bag or walk with you to a youth hostel. And did I stand out? Sure, I was the token North American gringo. We're in Hollywood. We do these things in, television and movies, so it's the certain culture the world knows, but you shatter some misconceptions sometimes. I'm not 90210, and I don't live in New York like Friends or have these sort of things that people have images on. We may live differently, and it's very humbling, because what makes you the coolest cat in town in northern London and in Philadelphia doesn't mean anything when you're in Corfu, Greece at the Pink Palace, or you're in Tangier waiting for the ferry to get you over there, and you have a chance to speak to somebody. But for me, this is what I really learned, James. I was 21 at the time, having the best time of my life. But I also realized that when you're in Paris, when you're in Prague, if you're in Venice, and you're in the youth hostels partying all night and all day, those museums only have limited hours, and you might need to take a bus to go see some ruins. And as much as Billy, Joey, and Tommy said they're going to do it, they're passed out. They're not going anywhere. And so you have to decide, do you stay in bed or do you get up? And do you get on that bus? You might have to roll solo. You might have to ask directions or use the Let's Go book. That was the one back in the day that would tell you where to go. And about 70% of the time I rolled solo. It was very rare that someone would get up early with me to get some coffee and get out the door. And so I saw the museums. I made the efforts. I just wasn't forced on a Sunday by my parents instead of playing baseball with my friends. And I grew up so much that year. Even though I was young, I was just seeing the beauty of life, paintings and buildings and certain things that were just so old, and all the people appreciating it. And so you had decompressed time. You could let your mind wander. You could soak it all in. You write a journal. I don't know. But that, to me, if you want to talk about one of the greatest coming-of-age growth moments of my life to make final decisions in life, that was one of the greatest drugs I ever took. Living life, being a Renaissance man, just seeing new things. And I knew that I had to make sacrifices, be selfish, and do certain things in order to continue this adventure, because unless you're very fortunate with a wealthy family or a luxury trade, chances are once you're done that roundabout, that vision quest, you're stuck. You might have a mortgage, kids, you can't move. And then you realize that you're in this quicksand. And so for me, I just wanted to dart around those sort of traps. And, but yeah, man, that kicked in that year. It kicked in big time. And when you're sitting somewhere having coffee, speaking in a second language, you feel good about yourself. You realize that all of that practice, all of that time, this isn't just a movie or a play or a memorized 5 lines. You are doing this. This is now a part of you, and it should be accepted on both ends. And what happens there is that people see this, and you can anchor with individuals, and you start getting more invitations to people's homes. You start learning the right culture and the right mannerisms, so conversations last longer. You get introduced to more people. You network better. You show engagement and active participation, not just being a spectator that's loud and expecting things. And so it's almost a metamorphosis, my friend. It's a blending. And if you're able to do these sort of things and do it naturally, every day is a Saturday. Every night's a Christmas Eve. And when you meet people, you glow, and they wonder why you're in such a good mood. I'm just having a wonderful day. And you don't let these things that creep in your mind back home from the naysayers, gray believers, the routine, and what's expected of you. And then all you're doing, buddy, is just chipping away, but there's no exit. And time goes on. So your expat pod, it's almost like Papillon getting off of Devil's Island. You're also talking about a selected group of individuals that were looking for certain types of liberation. It's very rare. And especially those that follow through. But we all have one thing in common. We were looking for something. For me, it was to leave the castle, James, so I could slay a dragon, save a princess, and be a prince. I needed adventure, but everybody has their one thing that they're looking for. But the most beautiful thing in life is if they're willing to sacrifice it all to see if they can get it. And so that's my thoughts on that topic, buddy.
That's great. On the initial kind of start of that journey, then you're studying in Arizona. You're studying Spanish, you said before. Did the university offer you the chance to do your year abroad, or was it something you had to go and take yourself?
They had a fantastic language department, communication and second language department. I did pay for and ask to go abroad. It was offered to people. Most people took a semester. It was encouraged. If you were taking second languages, they almost said, yo, man, go to France, go to Germany, go to Spain, check it out. And I said, I'm doing the full year. Of course I am. And you want to hear the coolest thing ever? When I got to Spain, I was at a private school first, and then the second half of the year I was at the University of Sevilla. So I was at the Escuela Internacional San Pere in El Puerto de Santa Maria, which is right next to Cadiz in Andalusia. And then I was in Madrid for a month. And so when I got there, I was under some pressure because I wanted the good grades. I'm studying and this and that. The guy pulls me aside and goes, "Hey, Richie." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You're abroad." He goes, "As long as you just don't not come to school, fail the test, and cause problems, you're going to get an A." I go, "What?" He goes, "You're going to get an A." And I'm taking, 12 units a semester? What? This is great. You should see what that did to my GPA. So what that did was, it's almost like free play. It's almost like when the teachers would bring in a television and a VCR for class. You're not getting a quiz and you get to watch a movie. I don't know what that's why he was a professor. He could grade me the old traditional way, but this man says, "Don't you dare take that 10% demon and ruin your year." He goes, "Young man, you just do what you need to do and happen, and forget the grades. Just experience your life." And I paid it forward. I respected the man. I could have blown it off, did the minimum, still got the A, and yeah, we all won. No. But in the time, I learned my subjunctive. I came to class. I showed the respect. So it was an excellent deal. I wouldn't trade it for the world. So anyway, getting back to the college deals, no, they offered that to you, but I needed a little more, my friend. So I interned for Telemundo. Jay Cohen, who was the owner of Telemundo for the Phoenix and the Tucson stations, that'd be an incredible internship for 20 hours a week doing promotions and public relations. So I got to meet some of the celebrities and the personalities, but I got that real work experience from amazing professionals. Was it for the resume? Resume. I'm 20 years old. What's this thing going to do for me? But I wanted to get the feel for it, to see if I should really invest this Spanish in a career. Is it enough? And James, there were just so many positive reinforcements. Even post-grad, when I graduated college, I worked for the importers of Corona. So go figure. Whatever it was, this was a very good investment. I was getting a return on it, and it was fulfilling me. And, it's just one of those things. Just don't be an expat. If you're going to go to a certain place that has a second language or certain culture, something to learn it anyway. It makes the time easier, and it will make the enjoyment, a 10. It really makes the difference.
No, completely. I think you have an interesting viewpoint on studying abroad, which I've heard from many of my friends who've done a very similar thing. They're Brazilian, and they studied with me in Liverpool, and they said, "We just need 40%, and we pass. That's it. Just need to get 40% average for the year, and I'll fail an exam." And they spend most of it traveling through Europe. So they, every weekend, every month, they'd be going on the cheapest flight they could find on Ryanair and traveling, because that's the reason they're there. That's the whole point of the Erasmus or the international exchange, was to the cultural side of it. So it's seeing other parts of the world. It's learning language through living, which they got a lot more out of. And I think you had a very similar experience, it seems, which is great.
Riding the Vespa through those little towns, being the only guy in my class to take Silviana dance lessons because they were goofing on me. Yeah, but when the Feria de la Primavera came, the spring fair, this is the one doing the Cuatro Passos. I felt like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. Yeah. And I did it all. These are things I would have never done. I never took dancing classes before, but I did there. And Tinto de Verano, you're trying all these different beautiful drinks. But you're right, my man. The teachers, the brilliant ones, realize that when you study abroad, it's not traditional school. It's like a sunny day. Let them go out and play, or do your class under a tree outside. Your traditional studies will never work. If people are having that mindset for adventure, then add to the adventure, but do it in a certain way where you'll be the best professor that they ever had. I'm still speaking about Director Ray and his school from '93. I don't even know if he's still existing. Who knows? But when I was there, he was the man. There was one day I was in class and maybe I just was tired. I wasn't in a good mood and I was reading really bad. And all the European kids were teasing me. So I was like, what? So I got very upset and I said, I'm not going to read anymore. This is ridiculous. And so the professor of the school says, listen, you can't leave today. But I'm not sending you back to class because you're all huffy puffy. Because why don't you do this? Go into the side room, go watch Dances with Wolves in Spanish and write me an essay on it. Okay? Why don't we do that for the afternoon? Brilliant professor. There's no ultimatums. There's no done deals. There's just zig and zag, which is the medium in which they learn. Today, it wasn't reading out of a book. It was me visually watching something and then writing something. It was just a movement of mass. Then when I watched Bailando con Lobos, they had the movie in Spanish, but they also had the Spanish subtitles underneath. And I said, Professor Samperi, why are we doing that? He goes, okay, buddy. He goes, are there a lot of noises outside? I go, all the time. Because can you hear conversation? Sometimes I can't. Because this is an excellent way for you to work your phonetic ear. Gunshots, horses, Dances with Wolves, where all that noise and they're speaking, there's a very good chance you're going to see underneath 20% of what you hear, but 100% of what you see. So then you can start like you do with English. You can get a third of a word and still kind of get it. And so he says, train your ear. Train your ear for quarter shots and half shots and noises in the background. I go, damn. He goes, yeah, watch, see, hear. Sometimes if you don't even know what the word is, you look it up, but you understand they're talking about clothes or a certain item. Brilliant. He goes, so that's the best way for you to learn, young man. That's his full engagement. Visual, hearing, seeing, the whole shebang. And so then I said, yo, if that's the best way to learn Spanish, I'm a movie watcher. So I'd watch The Terminator in Spanish, watching all these old movies in Spanish, Maltese Falcon, I don't know, all the cool stuff. And it's a great way to learn.
Yeah, it's the Friends method. I've heard it's called the Friends method, where you watch Friends in the language you wish to learn. If you know something really well in English, a TV series, a film, you watch the same thing you know very well in the language you were tongue in another language, because you'll pick up on the jokes, so you know what's going to happen. But you learn a lot of types of language. In French, it'll be relationships or being a young professional, all the kind of stuff you experience then. Sopranos, it might be more about being in the mafia, all that kind of stuff. It's having that with the subtitles. And one thing I learned when I was trying to learn German was, if you watch something with subtitles and you write the first 20 words you don't know down and go look them up, and then you keep doing that exercise over time, and you'll start to pick up loads of things, and you'll start to pick up the trends of everything, which is quite a useful way of learning a language. Now, my German is useless now, but as in I can't speak it, but I can still ask for a beer if I need to, and I can say I don't know what you mean.
You mean eine Flasche Bier, bitte?
Yes, I'd be for you want a big one.
Nice. Of course, you got to learn how to ask for beer in every language. But yeah, my man, it depends on your medium of learning, but I couldn't agree with you more.
I guess so living in Spain then was your litmus paper into that completely lit the fire to you wanting to live abroad. So when you moved back then to the US, you talk about this 1 in a million chance to move to Costa Rica. So please, expand on what that was and what the process was for you to then move abroad.
When I came back from Spain, it's almost like waxing a car and detailing it. There's not a speck of dirt or dust or anything on it. As I mentioned before, my friend, I was reborn again, and I was trying so hard not to muddy that water or to jump back into. As I mentioned, all the churches and museums and adventures that I had been on, it almost felt like a dream. And some people get sad on Sunday nights because Monday work is coming, or when they're flying home or driving home from a beautiful vacation, they have those jitteries. I felt that. And this was one of the biggest ones I've ever felt in my entire life. I wanted to live again. And I know I was going back to where I was going to be. And when I stood there, it was almost like a color prism. You see the main color, but you might see a couple more shadows to the side. It was very interesting for me being back there. I fit in, but I was also overflowing because maybe I had impulse control. Secondly, my Spanish was so much better then. So the relationships were different. I became much more mature when it came to my studies. So I was able to reduce the time and get better results. I don't know why, but whatever that year, it was because of the 100 books that I read that year. Kidding? And so by doing that, when I had to go back into the textbook deal, not the guaranteed A by Professor Sampere, I had to study again. And these were communication and rhetoric classes. So but thank God I was working that muscle memories and I could do shorthand and note taking. But I saw where people were going. I had missed a year of that growth from junior to senior year. And for my case, super senior year. Some people do 5 years. And so I saw people at their final stage, as they say on the back nine. They are literally about to go off to be lawyers, doctors, engineers, architects, family business, and so forth. So they're there. And for me, I didn't have a plan yet. I had a shiny medal of Spanish on my chest. I had beautiful experiences to talk about, but I did not have a guaranteed job post-grad. And so did I feel like I was behind? In that sort of race, I did, because, you got to think about the sort of road that you're taking. That's like city driving. I want highway driving. I don't want stoplights, things like that. And so I didn't like the clutter. I didn't like that sort of stage. I wanted something that was more free-flowing. And so when graduation came, one had their thrust. They had their anchor. And again, it went from coming back, being in that situation, feeling that jitterness, that once I graduated, it alleviated a lot of that, about 50%. I felt where I had a chance to do things again, but was still limited. But I had a little bit more space to run in the backyard. And so, as I mentioned, the jobs that I took involved Spanish, so I could taste it and have fun and go to, west side of Phoenix and speak to the La Raza Mexican population. So did I taste it? Yeah, but it's still Phoenix, still Arizona, still the same sort of rat race and things. And so I was in between jobs, hanging out at my mama's house one afternoon with my cousin. We're just chilling in the pool, and he's like, yo, got this opportunity. Remember our buddy in college? I go, yeah. He goes, listen, he's got a call center. He does customer support. He wants someone to come down and teach English for a couple months. Are you game? And the first thing that came to my mind is, I got to ask my parents. My parents were giving me permission to move abroad again. And I said, wait a second, I'm 27 years old. What's going on here? And so I had this conversation with them, and they said, just try it for 2 months, see where it goes. We'll keep your apartment, which once again I had to put in storage after I decided to stay. But you know what it felt like to me? It was one of those last hurrah bachelor party final weekend things where my parents said, get it out of your system. Yeah, we'll let you do 60 days. And then when you come back, you'll start selling real estate in the family business. I saw where that was, because really what it was the half moon circle comeback, It wasn't the long-term plan thinking of falling in love, start business, work. Could you go there like, we'll see you in 2 months. You didn't see me in 2 months. Why would you say that? Why would you jinx it? And when I got there, I knew something. James, I knew this. If I did not do everything that I possibly could to stay in this beautiful Central America paradise, I might never get this chance again. And so after working with my friend for 2 months, we had a conversation, and almost at the same time I said, can I stay? And he's like, do you want to stay? I was like, what? You just say that? And, it's really not good to see a grown man cry. But I tell you what, there was a big tear running down my face because I realized, James, my boy, I did it from 1993 to 2000. I did it again. I got a chance to live abroad again, and I'm going to taste it differently because I'm not in school now. And I met my future wife today. I met her a few months in. I fell in love. And then I smiled to myself and I said, this is going to change your life. And so month would go by. And so I flew home after 6 months, and my parents are like, what's going on? What's up? Because I still have my apartment. I go, listen, I'm coming home to put the stuff in storage. You doing what? I go, I don't know how long this is going to last. Who knows? But I've made it 6 months. I might get another 6, maybe less. Why don't we just put the things in storage? Because when I come home, plug and play, we're ready to go. And they're like, okay, 6 months. Nice 6 months. They tried to do it again, James. They tried to do it a second time. And it didn't happen. 6 months turned into years. And then we stopped counting. And but that's where it goes sometimes, because you know how fast time goes. Unless you plant seeds now, or you should have done it yesterday. Things just don't happen. So you from time to time need to slow down and start putting down some roots to let things give you that stability.
It's kind of like the old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today.
I was trying to quote that. Yeah, you got that for me. Yeah. The tree.
Yeah.
You're right.
No, but I completely got your point. It's really interesting. I think, families can have certain expectations for you. It's difficult for them maybe to realize that it's not what they want for you, is not what you want for yourself. It takes a lot of bravery from their point of view to allow that to happen as well. You know, you've got to mostly be the one who breaks the mold or takes the risk, and anyone who moves anywhere is brave. I think bravery is a trait in every single person who lives abroad, because it's not easy. It's easy just to say I couldn't do it. It was too hard. They wouldn't let me in, or whatever. There's always an excuse. If you have gone and lived abroad, or do want to go and live abroad, then you've got to go and do it. And then if you don't like it, you can always come home. Most of us can always come home. Obviously, if you're leaving for reasons of tragic reasons, then it's a bit difficult. But most people who choose to travel or do travel tend to have a choice to go home as well. Even if it does mean some pain in finding a new apartment, or whimpering home to your family and saying, yeah, it was difficult, I know. You still learn something. You still learn what you don't like, but you still learn how not to do things. And you learn what you want to do, which might be back home, without knowing you're going to be, in 15 years' time, regretting not taking that chance when you had it. When we're young, and I believe we're always young, because old is 15 years older than you are today. You should always take a chance at doing something. It's great to hear that you've done that, and you've found that way to achieve it. My question next is a bit more about visas then. So when you took the chance to go work in the call center and teach English, what was it like in terms of getting a visa? Was it quite simple? Was it just you're a tourist visa? Did you go on a working travel visa? What was that process like?
Very good point. I was on a tourist visa, and the fact that I was doing a position at my friend's company was not taking away a job from a local Costa Rican because of a native English-speaking teacher. It was just one of those things where every 90 days that I'd have to leave the country for 72 hours. So I'd either go to, Nicaragua for fishing on Rio San Juan, or I'd go to Panama and go to Boca de Toros and do some snorkeling. And so it's a great vacation every couple months. In order to get your residence, cedula, and citizenship, there are some other things there. You need to show that you are self-sufficient in regards to money in the United States, either with money that you have as savings or a monthly investment, and that you don't have a criminal record, things like that. It's just certain things they're looking to bring in people here that will contribute and not take from the system, and that are coming here with good intention. I never expected to start a business. I only expected to be here for 60 days. Little did I learn what happened. Costa Rica is a very nice place. It's the only democratic society in Central America. They do have security here, but it's not like some of these military states where you see armed people on the corners and they're just shaking people down. No, in fact, the local police and government, they're quite friendly, and it's usually the local boys that grew up in the neighborhood, so they know everyone. And I see it like that. They're more protectors compared to aggressors. And but no, Costa Rica, it's not that bad. Another suggestion would be to speak with an attorney, because if you're looking to open up a bank account, purchase property, rent, buy a car, it's important that somebody is looking at these contracts and what's happening, because not saying people get taken advantage of, but they might be able to save you time. There's a chance they might be able to save some money. Or, I do kind of like this, you can almost pay to play, where if you do have the right attorney, or know somebody, you can get to the front of certain lines, or your papers can be on the top of certain piles. That's just how the game is played. If you're capable of having that sort of patience and understanding that there may be long lines someday, and then you'd be more capable of living in another country. It's the loud tourist in the restaurant or at the bank that causes a scene or has certain expectations. I mean, it's bad for everybody. I understand if somebody loses their wallet, phone, or something happens, sure, they can be emotional, but it's the people that are on vacation that are rushing to get to something. And you see what they've done is that they've ruined the groove of the moment because everyone's just relaxing and having fun. Next thing you know, someone's getting yelled at. That's got nothing to do with anything.
I suppose they're the ones that have cannonballed into the pool, right?
Pretty much. They're supposed to taste the raw and let things come as they go. And they're not doing that.
Because you could say they need to reduce their baggage allowance, perhaps, on the plane.
It was more mental baggage, my friend.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know,
but I agree with that too. And what are you going to do? You and I aren't there to change the world. We can just, set the best example we can from where we're from.
But that's the best way to change the world, is one person at a time, right? You start a movement and you talk and you spread the right, mannerisms or the right methods for communicating, and people can be wrong, people can be right, but as long as you're respectful and you don't shout at someone for having a different opinion to you, then there's still harmony, because, it's okay to disagree on stuff. It's okay to have a different viewpoint to someone else on many things in life. That's why democracy works. It gives everyone a chance to say what they want, and if they don't get it, then they have to accept that the consensus is bigger. And if you don't like it, then you leave and you go somewhere which maybe does agree with your views on certain things. And, I guess that's more and more difficult with the world being a lot more closed at times. It doesn't allow people to find where they feel like home. But, I hope people have that opportunity to make their dreams come true in terms of, live a life which they want to live in a community that they're proud of, or feeling respected by, or listened to. I think a lot of people don't feel listened to in especially the Western world. I'm not too sure about the global South or other parts of the world, but from my experience, the Western world, a lot of people are angry because they don't feel like they have a voice. And, we're supposed to be the leaders of democracy and telling everyone what to do when we, our own house is on fire effectively. January 6th, 2021, the Capitol building was nearly on fire, but when it got, the effectively from after the Trump rally, but it's things like that which make you think about the language we use and the way we communicate with everyone else, which is really important. You look at the UK, we have Brexit, and it's the most divisive thing I've known in my lifetime. There's been more things happen, but in terms of on my doorstep, that's really changed the political terrain in this country, for sure. I don't suppose there's much more you needed to kind of work out before you move to Costa Rica in terms of the visas or the house that you talked about, or should we go in section 2, which is more about your time there?
No, I think more, in regards to the time here, it's ecotourism. I mean, if people like being outside, in front of their laptops in a stuffy room, you can do some surfing, climb mountains, go on 4x4s. But I was doing some thinking. You were talking earlier about discourse between people and people that have conflicts. I can understand other positions, doesn't mean that I agree with that. And even understanding the position, not agreeing with it still doesn't mean we're going to solve something. There are some people that will just keep a stand. So let's just say we'll never win that battle, like a tug of war doesn't move. What subcategory can I win? Well, if you and I are walking together towards a door, I'll get in front of you for a second so I can open the door for you, Jane, so you can walk through. And happens there might be 2 or 3 people behind you. I'll keep the door open for them to see how many people say thank you. Thank you is important, right? And so let's just say you and I then go out to get lunch later that day. We see somebody with a name tag, Maria, right? making us our sandwiches. You and I will naturally say, "Hello, Maria. Looks like you make amazing sandwiches. Better than Subway and Quiznos." So the next thing you know, he's putting extra pickles on it. Why? Because all you and I did was pay it forward by, as you say, people feel ignored. We just let Maria know that she makes great sandwiches, and I opened the door for you and some strangers. Sometimes you can compliment people if you really know that someone took their time, put themselves together, a presentation together, or something you know that they're proud of. Say it. It's cool if you say someone's got a nice tie on, or you like someone's shoes, or that presentation was pretty cool. That picture you took at the mountains was nice. And so those are sincere, authentic. And so I don't like chum in the water. I don't like sharks with chum, because what you're talking about is that fighting for that peace. Let that go away. Let's you and I go over here to the right, and we can fish all we want. And so it's almost like you can be famous on B-sides. You know, a lot of the B-sides music, amazing hits. There's always a second side of that album. I don't want to fight for that first place right there. You'll get it from time to time. But you can make a huge living on B-sides and B-movies. And there's less pressure. It's more artistic, right? So I like that sort of stuff because it's more natural. There's more anchoring. There's more things in common compared to contractual terms, money, kissing butter, backstabbing. That's not fun, and you're not going to win. And I don't want to play those games. I'd rather open a door for you. And so the person that walks in could be the owner of that company. Here's the trick, my friend. I'm a telemarketer. I own a call center. In fact, it's an Expat Pod. We don't need to talk about that today, but I need to share something which can assist. When I'm making phone calls to companies, I do a positive escalation. When I speak to a that assists me prior to a transfer to a decision maker, I will mention to that individual how amazing they are. And when I get passed to you, I will let you know prior to my own introduction how amazing this individual is. Do it verbally. I'll also do it in writing. So when I call your company back, they remember me. And you're thinking about sales and Wolf of Wall Street and Glengarry Glen Ross and ABC and all that stuff. Yeah, sure. But I've also seen at the end of the day, when I speak to James and I mention how amazing he was, he's going to say, "Listen, Richard, that's my wife. That's my daughter. Richard, she's with me for 20 years. You're the only person that mentioned." And at the end of the day, when I wasn't around and you had 20 phone calls that day and you have to make a decision of a call center, you're speaking. And she said, "Yo, James, Richard, he said something. He might be a little more expensive. Andy in the Philippines, but he said to me, spoke about me, and he did his due diligence. He knew about your company. He left us a really nice voicemail. It's a beautiful custom made. What this cat's doing prior to a..." So I've had people being, "Listen, you are a little more expensive. Look at the way you treated Kathy. And look at the voicemail that you left us because you looked at our website and got excited over ice cream that week." And that's how I've been able to earn a business. I didn't have to cut throat and I didn't have to backstab for it. I did it on merit when given certain topics that I could share my energy, my thoughts, my position. It was good enough for people to reciprocate. And then we could anchor there and then go to the contractual. You need the foundation before you get to the higher level, or that thing's just going to fall. So I almost did the reverse, my friend. I did it a little bit differently than what the other people did. It's almost like a pyramid. Did it with the point. I needed that to go and balance the rest.
Yeah, I think your method is actually that, well, as you've proven with your business, that it is the better way to do it because, yeah, so you're saying about cost and it's more expensive to use your call center than someone else, but the way in which you approach a call or a sales pitch to the company would then mirror how your office would work for that company and their prospective clients or their customer service requirements. And if you've got that level of service before even getting paid, what are you going to do when there's money coming to you? You're going to mirror that. And if they see, if this is the the, you all being the ambassador for your company in that way, they'll go, well, okay, maybe it is $5 more per hour or whatever, but if we get happier customers, that usually, returns better sales. So actually, it's an investment to spend a bit of money in this part of the business.
Well, my good friend, let's also be realistic. Let's just say someone is half my price. If you are able to do 10 calls an hour, I can't do 20 an hour. It just doesn't work that way. I can't invent more time. But you said the right thing, sales. Forget sales. Let's use soft skills. If the agents in the culture that James and I created have certain soft skills for retention, upselling, and referrals, that could potentially offset the price because you're not looking inbound support, average talk time. You're talking about hunting, right? And so, yeah, that's why certain coaches, when they have the same pool of athletes to choose from, win. I agree with you 1,000%. I can do it on merit and I can offset price in regards to skill set, but I cannot do it on average talk time or certain service level agreement metrics. And I'm not going to lie to you and say I can't. That's ridiculous. How about this? No surprises. It's always great giving you preventative measures and cures. You judge character during chaos. If you're screaming and yelling at me prior to us working together or have a supervisor in Chicago that curses, it's not a good fit, my brother. It's not that I don't want business. What about the agent's leverage? They're not going to want to take it. You'll have nobody showing up to your account. And so it's that healthy sort of balance, my friend, where you got to give the agent their dignity and have them want to do compared to just doing a forced march. That's not fun for anybody.
As much as I really enjoy talking about business with you, and because that's part of my brain, which I love, we should get into the second part of the podcast, which is more about your personal life in Costa Rica. So hello and welcome to section 2 of the podcast, all about being there. Now, Richard, you've shown a lot in the first section, which is incredible to listen to your passion and I guess initially your passion for your year abroad and how that ignited your wanderlust and your, I guess, constant yearning to learn and have adventures. How moving to Costa Rica, obviously you went for work. What was your first experience of that world like when you arrived and got off the plane and I don't know, just landed in Costa Rica and went to go somewhere? What was that whole adventure like for you at the start?
Let's use all of our 5 senses. What did I see? Rainforest. Yeah, like out of a movie. What did I hear? Monkeys. Birds. Amazing. What did I smell? The freshest air could ever breathe. What did I taste? Come on, man. Look at the food that's here. And what did I feel? The warmest weather. It felt amazing, like a warm bath. That was my first impression. And as they say, it's the kind of place you're smiling compared to looking out and saying, I don't want to get out of the plane. Well, what a beautiful culture. Pura Vida means pure life, and that represents the culture here. It's almost like going back in time 20 or 30 years. People are family-oriented, God-fearing. All the neighbors know one another. People walk arm in arm, hand in hand. Kisses on the cheek, which I always think is cool. And you see a culture that's alegre. It's got happiness to it. And it's nice seeing people in good moods every day. I mean, it's really rich in regards to food. I love eating a lot. I mean, you still get your fried, but some of their plates are really delicious. And you're talking about some of the most lush farmland. So when I go to the farmer's market on Saturday, it is the freshest of fresh, exotic fruits, vegetables, and, the stuff you're used to. And you can eat for a fraction of the cost. If you're looking to have a healthy lifestyle, it's almost difficult not to eat that. So physiologically, you feel good. Mentally, you start feeling good. Your skin feels better. Your body feels better. And you're saving money. It's not imported or frozen. I mean, stuff is so fresh. I've never had when you start eating carrots that were literally poured out of the ground that morning, it's almost like coffee here. The coffee is so good, I drink it black. You don't want it any other flavors. And so some of these fruits and vegetables, I want to taste it to see really what it tastes like when it's the freshest of fresh. It's like when I was fishing, people would cut the tuna on the boat, a little wasabi and some soy sauce. Now you're jamming, but you realized about transportation, frozen food, and freshness, and how your stomach feels when you eat certain food. So that was a huge eye-opener for me. And then when you leave the city, the national parks are incredible. Pay just $1 and you're walking around with, waterfalls and all the different butterflies and birds. And not saying I'm, a stamp collector and bird watcher, but when you're in paradise and you see gorgeous animals flying past you and running past you and frogs of different colors, you can't just stop and see the beauty of this painting. And you see some of the greatest surfing in the world. All joking aside, there are international tournaments that are here. And so you will see top performers, and it's a surfing environment. You got Malpais, some of the best, Hermosa Beach. And that's incredible. And what I also love about Costa Rica is that you see the palm trees going up to the beach, to the ocean, where I grew up going to the shore was in Jersey. Nice and cool here in Margate and Ventnor by Lucy, getting your Dino and Sacco subs. You're still seeing these beautiful $2 million condos that are right up to the beach, and it's nice and everything, but there's a big difference between seeing a lazy tree that he could lie under. And you look left and right, and there's no one around. So let's go skinny dipping. It just has, and you really feel like you get to see. And there's no noise, there's no music, there's no distraction, there's no McDonald's, there's no 4x4 hot wheeling on the beach. It's just, you get a chance to go away and just enjoy your full day and have that picnic if you want. We have hot springs here. Abacon Resort's the most famous. It's by Lake Arenal and the, center of the country. It's gorgeous up there in regards to their pools and flowers. But then if you travel to, let's say, Rio Celeste, a little bit west of that, you have places that aren't as touristy, but to me, it's more natural environment just to be there where it's not man-made, where you find these little treasures of hot pools and waterfalls, and you stay in these cabinas, these cabins in the middle of nowhere. And that to me is an experience compared to a Four Seasons or a Marriott, which is beautiful and I've enjoyed it. But when you hear the congos or you see the Rio next to you and butterflies are everywhere and you're having that coffee in the morning, it's just, man, you can't beat it. Time stands still. Why? Because you ain't looking at your phone or your watch. You don't know where you're just hanging. That's why time stands still. You don't know what time is. Normally when you're in the city or if you're working or you have a day off on the weekend, you wake up an hour or two later, morning, whatever. When you're on vacation, you finally look at your watch and it says 5:45 or 6:15. You're like, wait a second, I thought it was 9 o'clock. Nobody. Yeah, but I went to bed late last night. I know, my man. How come I'm not tired? You know the answer, huh? You need that nonsense sleep when you're grinding. When you're living, you need minimum sleep because your body's just moving and you feel great. And then you start asking yourself certain questions at that time while you do certain things when you go back home. And so I guess, James, I was able to chip away a lot of the fat in my life and replace it with things that were much more comfortable, a little more legroom.
No, that's incredible. I love the passion with your recalling this period of your life. But it you say about, I'm a person who doesn't sleep much at all. And yet, when I'm on the holiday, I feel a lot more energized than when I'm at work. I think it's right, because you haven't got the stress before bed, or you're sleeping stressed about the next thing that's going to happen, or you're stressed about, not missing an alarm or something. Whereas if you're just waking up when you wake up, you'll probably sync with sunrise, or you'll wake up just when you finish a REM cycle. And your body is ready to go. Yeah, I'm okay now. Let's go and do something. Whereas you're living with an external just intrusion into your sleep cycle, when you do feel a bit groggy, and you do feel like, oh, I just want to stay in bed, and you don't want to get up and go explore or go have a nice breakfast or go for a walk somewhere, or, see the ocean, or just read something and talk to someone and learn something. You've got to go and sit on Excel for half a day, or you go do a presentation or something, which, and they can be incredibly rewarding, but for the majority of people, it's not what they want to do with their day.
Right. So how come most people, James, on vacation say good morning to other people when they're walking to breakfast compared to being in the city or going to work? No one talks. When you're on vacation, you're like, good morning. Hey, how are you? Like around your new best friend. Why can't you do that all the time? Why does it just have to be because you're sleeping and on cloud nine?
Should definitely encourage you. I mean, in the north of England, everyone says good morning, I think. But yeah, in London, where it feels like the rat race and everyone is quite insular, or, they're definitely covered in layers of insulation, not because it's cold, but because they just haven't got the mental capacity to maybe do that. They need that time to themselves, which you don't get. Whereas, you've got more freedom, you do have that time to yourself, and your brain is allowed to think laterally, not linearly. And then you're right, you do feel the capacity, and you are happier, and you do see someone who's smiling when they're walking, and you smile back, or you say hello, or as you mentioned, and that then triggers a thing before about the passing it forward, kindness and things. That triggers that going on. If you pass a compliment forward to someone, or you pass a thank you, or you make the effort to really say to someone that they've made your life better, or they made your day better, or they've made the experience of something better, they then feel better, and then will then do a good experience for the next person. Or they'll then go, when they have a good experience, and go do that as well, because they've seen how great it makes them feel. Yeah, hopefully we encourage it more. And it's great to hear that your life and your move has, I guess, been hinged out in yourself, and not in a bad way. People say unhinged, it's always a negative thing. Oh, you go off the rails, blah, blah. No, unhinged is just it's a decoupling of experience. You've decoupled part of your life which may have been pulling you back, but now you're being more free to just roll with it and not worry about the baggage, as you were saying before, which you were towing. So, and you think you can really see that in the way you kind of talk about the experience you've had so far, and there's probably why it's still there. But going forward with obviously socializing, you mentioned you met your love of your life, and obviously you're still there and with that person. What was that like? What was the socializing like when you first arrived? Did the dance lessons help in Spain for that to happen?
I got very, very lucky. An individual that worked at my friend's call center, his name is E045. He's actually one of the most famous rock stars in the country. Just to let you know, we just produced a song with Gary Beers from INXS on a song that we just did here, which is pretty cool. You'll be seeing this on YouTube soon. But let's scroll back 23 years. This guy used to take us on trips on the weekends and would take us to every single beach in town. The Puerto Viejo by the Panama border, to Manuel Antonio and Jaco and all those fun places. And so in the beginning, I was learning his friends because I was going to these practice band sessions and concerts. First couple months was just kind of fun and rock and rollish. And secondly, I was meeting a lot of people that worked at the call center. And so I was flush with friends. And this is before people even had cell phones. So we still had a landline. So we were calling people's phones, and I was asking to speak to people, talking to their mothers and stuff. Hi, I'm there. Who is this gringo calling? But it's that was kind of fun because, back in 5th grade when you call someone's home and get embarrassed to speak to parents, kind of felt that way again. No, it's your idea.
I'm going to say, it feels like being in school, like, hi, can this person come and play?
Of course. In my Spanish, it was so, to them, it was suspicious. Sometimes shady. Yeah. But anyway, I did it. But no, socially, this place was nonstop. There's mucha marcha. There's a lot of fiesta. It's a lot of fun. And so there was always something going on every night. When I first got here, there was a place called El Pueblo. It was like 50 bars that was shut in this one little area. So you could run around there at night. Kazoo was a lot of fun. Had some bars there too, going off to the beaches. But they dance a lot. And a lot of it is not like my kind of dancing, which was Dance Party USA, Northeast Philly sort of stuff, or even break dancing. This is like South and Tango and Latino dancing, which I don't know. And so you'd see these people that are out there making it happen. And the environment before is exceptionally, festive. During the winter time, they have a Festival de la Luz, which is their light parade, kind of like a Macy's Day parade. So that's a lot of fun downtown. They have something called El Tope right before Christmas, which is the horse parade. There's about 1,000 horses from the poorest vaquero to the wealthiest person in the world are riding their horses down the street. That is a serious party. And I love horses as well. It's fun to watch that. And we have something called Zapote, which is our Christmas festival that they have in Zapote and down in Palmares, where they have all the rides and they have a big bull ring. And so every year you get to watch 100 drunk people trying to mess with the bulls in the ring and let them running around. And everyone's like, yeah. And so you get to see that. And man, there's always something to do. Always. But, especially around the holidays and Semana Santa. This is a place where, since the weather is nice, the youthful people are social, it's an environment, because you could travel certain places in the world where everyone's in bed by 6 o'clock and nothing's open and there's nothing to do. And so I was very fortunate, which made me very selective. So I could choose with whom I spend my time, and I don't have to just be out with, hanging out with bad people in Bowie's Town looking to get in trouble. And so, with my wife, though, was interesting. She was working at my roommate's restaurant. And so my roommate at one time goes, yo, Gracie's really cute. She's working with us. You can't ask her on a date. See, and I said, yo, James, I'm going to ask her on a date. Yeah, go on, Richie, go for it. James, I'll go for it. So the next thing you know, in the restaurant, like, my roommate would be over there and Gracie and I'd be over there, stealing kisses. Yeah, old school style. And it's like an 80s movie. And so that was fantastic. We did that for about 6 months, just sneaking around my roommate's back. Yeah. We got caught one time, though, because he had a driver security guard. What was his name again? Like Harold or something. Next thing you know, my roommate was over there. Grace and I were over there. And Harold was over there. Just like in the show Happy Days, he completely busted us. So he looked at us, and he just looked the other way and just kept on walking. There's an expression in Spanish, hacer la vista gorda, look the other way. And so whenever we see Harold, he'd give us the look, we give him the look back, and we're like, damn it, So he never sold us out. He never said anything. But, yeah, man, you got to have a little adventure. And Marv in the beginning, it was forbidden. And so we had to do what we had to do. But then I had to tell my roommate one day, I'm like, yo, buddy, it's just how it is. And the rest is history.
It sounds like you are Chandler and Monica and Friends when Joey finds out. Have you seen that episode or that part of it?
Isn't it fun to stick around?
Aren't these a little bit better? I guess that's the excitement of it. I met my girlfriend during COVID, and we went out to see each other because of the rules we had to follow, and that was, how it was great for us in terms of that first year of life was pretty unusual. Not to the extent you had, but it was still great for us. And yeah, 3 years later, it's still going strong. So, really enjoying that. With regards to then your living situation, so you had a roommate. Was he also from abroad, or was he local?
No, my friend. When I first got down here, my cousin brought 6 other people as well. So there was 7 of us living in a house. It was 2 girls and 5 guys. It was like the real world. And one by one, each person was being sent home because we were supposed to be there to teach English. And they were not going to work. They weren't even trying. So it was kind of insulting my friend that was hooking him up with an opportunity, kind of needed them. And so they'd last a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and one by one, they just kept on leaving. And so there was eventually just me. So I needed a place to stay. So that's when a friend of ours who was my roommate who owned the restaurant says, Richie, come join us at this house. So I lived with him, and we were there for a couple of years, and then they left the country, which left me alone. So then I started renting apartments by myself, and then all of a sudden, because it's kind of funny, you're thinking, well, how come your girlfriend's not moving in with you? Come on, man. This is a strict Catholic country. She still was living with her mother till 25, and that's the house I had to call and ask permission to speak to her. And so after dating for about 4 years, it was at that time that we decided that to start living together. And so it's better that way. There were so many checkpoints and so many levels of layers that made sense. And I didn't want to have roommates anymore because I'm getting serious with somebody and I don't need the shenanigans. And that's a very lightweight. And, but it needed to be different. I wanted to then see if I could make it on my own again. And you're not going to believe this. Okay, I'm not even going to ask you to guess. The first car that I bought here was in 1993 Yugo GBX, Good Value Extra. Yugo, yeah, one of those Yugo sliding cars. What, $200? And guess what? It had a hole, right, on the driver's side, like where Fred Flintstone could put his foot through. What are you, dropping cigarettes? What's wrong with you people? But that car didn't really have a good second gear, so I had to go from first to third. Don't ask, but that thing worked. That worked for a couple of years. I two-toned it.
Good for that.
Man, I was driving a U-Pole in Costa Rica, brother. That's when you know you started from scratch. No one's giving you anything. Your dad's not saying, man, I'm driving a Yugo. Obviously, no one's paying for any money. Yeah, man, I wanted to start at zero. I wanted to see where I could start from there. I mean, now I drive a beautiful 92 Cabriolet convertible, my baby. Yeah, man, I started with a Yugo.
Oh, yeah, I saw one of my girlfriend and I went to Dubrovnik in Croatia, which is obviously ex-Yugoslavia, and we took a road trip to Montenegro and we saw one at the border cross. I was like, what car is that? So I had to go and check it out because I work in the car industry as my job, and so I do know quite a lot about random cars, but I'd never seen one before, and I just knew about them from.
You know what's so funny about that car? It really didn't have a dash. Like the whole front panel, this is all plastic. Is there any place with a radio? No, it's not the Good Value Extra. Oh man, that car was as cheap as the day is long. It was as thin as the day is long. But guess what it wasn't? It wasn't a Target. And if people bump into it, you spill a drink in it, get scratched. It's all good, buddy. It doesn't matter to me. Because, that's the kind of thing where, you got these pothole people. You don't really want to drive something too nice. It's only going to upset you if your cars get beat up a little bit here.
No, completely. I probably think of it as Malta, because Maltese drivers are renowned for being bumper cars, apparently, in terms of on the roads. It's, you hit some, think it's fine, it's trading paint. Going for into work, though, in terms of what that was like. So when you eventually started the business yourself, what was that process like in terms of doing it in the country? Was it what you expected it would be like, or was it your expectation of listening the American entrepreneurial way?
It's an excellent question, James. Well, how about this? When I worked at my friend's center for 4 years, as I mentioned, I learned the business from the inside out. The only thing I didn't know was the CEO level. And I felt it was overwhelming because of IT, security, human resources, the law. So I said, well, why don't we just expand? So what I did was I hired specialists. My wife became the human resources director. She's also an attorney, an accountant. I had a chief technical officer. So I could hire these people. But prior to that stage, what I was doing was I was renting a turnkey station at a blended center. It was like an internet cafe. For a couple $100 a month, I can get a station with a computer headset. The guy would offer coffee, security, and IT support. It just wasn't private. So I could scale accordingly on a monthly basis. I didn't have a lot of outlay. But then again, it became expensive because once I got to a couple dozen agents, it made no sense to give them prime, money. But when I had the stability of the long-term client plus the capital, then what I did was I rented space for 6 years where I could expand to about 100 seats. And in my industry, there is an attrition, so I could purchase used furniture and top computer equipment for a fraction of the cost. So that allowed me to scale piecemeal and accordingly. I was there for 6 years. And so when I then once again had capital and even more secure clients, I purchased property, which was an old building from 1958 that was abandoned for about 7 years, and so I bought it about 7 years ago. We put on a third floor and just renovated it to 300 seats. And pretty much this is where we are today. And so in 16 years, it was slow and steady. It was cash only. There was no loans, nor partners, no desperate decisions. It was really just, I mentioned before, certain sort of checkpoints so I could be responsible financially with the agents that work with me and my reputation here. And, it sucks to pay tons in taxes, but you have to do what you have to do. And you have to follow the laws, especially since I'm a guest here. And I needed, once again, experts to walk me through this just to make sure that I'm doing the right things. And but was it difficult in the beginning? No, but I think I lost my innocence pretty fast, because once you lose your first agent, you take it personal. But then when you've lost so many, it could be a natural attrition. There could be a scheduling conflict at the university. Maybe their best friend works at Amazon. Could be closer to their home. James, they could make more money. Nothing against me. James, if you and I gave somebody the walk of shame or deface them in front of others to make them cry like these bosses that want that power and ego, well, then it's on you, bro. Somebody just leave because of circumstance. I can't take it personal. Maybe give me a 2 weeks notice or try to work with me with the client. But, life happens. And I've also been disappointed more than I have angry at certain individuals that I've promoted and put in certain positions. There's right bus, right seat. Either it's a forced fit or it should have never been a fit at all. But all they did was get smoke and mirrors, and they're very thin. And eventually it broke, once you put a little pressure on it or something. And so, but COVID really mucked things up. Because a call center environment, there was a lot of synergy here. It's a linguistic environment, especially bilingual agents. And so people would feed off of the energy. There could be shadowing, onboarding, side by side. People really listen to others, and like in a gym, you can work out better. Or a golf game, in athletics. And so I was fortunate to survive. I adjusted for work from home and virtual, but it completely decimated any sort of real poor culture that we had. Now it's just really about benefits per night and if it's easy for them. But we used to be able to offset the attrition and get better talent. We'll see my jukeboxes, pinball machines, the pizza parties, having the people we have. And I think that sucks. I really do. That was my special sauce, damn it. Because I have IT, I have everything else. But Richard, the one that would give the training class, soft skills classes, or I would walk by your desk, James, I'd hear you converting a phone call and talk about it, and I'd give you an authentic recognition, or I could be there to celebrate your year with me. Come on, man, that got taken away. It's not right. Flip side, it saves them time, money, and it's very convenient for them. But it's kind of like we went from, it used to be amazing live theater and live concert, and now VHS tape. It's got wiggly lines because you've watched it too much. It got downgraded. I mean, the service is still there, but there's magic that happened. That electro removed. And now we're being replaced with AI. That's the threat. And more people like omni-channel non-voice support. What do you mean? That mean it. Most kids today prefer to chat, and then they claim they don't have to have interpersonal conversations. Well, then you're making it more difficult for us. So am I griping? Well, you're my friend. Yeah. But in essence, I've seen where instead of having that sort of passion that all people are just kind of going through the motions today.
Yeah, you're right. I'm probably on the latter side. I quite like working at home because I do now in my job, but I'm not maybe in a role which is what you're describing, where you have that, that kind of full pen mentality of you feed off the energy of your peers because you're all at the goal of, everyone's doing a very similar job, and it's because it's not, writing reports or working in software. It's talking to people and being, very, very the first line basically for what people will hear. There's a lot of benefit in doing that. You're hearing the colleagues, you're hearing they're doing a good job, and you go, well, I can learn from that, or as you said, you can be, walking past and you hear someone's done a great job and you can go, yeah, well done, like, that's incredible. Then you can, give them some good positive reinforcement or positive feedback in front of everyone else, and they might feel even better about it because they know it's not just you going on a phone call to them privately saying, oh, that's great, because you publicly endorsed them, which would then inspire other people to do a great job or learn from the positive things that they've done. Which I guess usually sport is like it's gone because of the joys of homework, because not every job needs home working. I like my job because it does have it. I love the freedom of it. I still live in the office 2 days a week because I want to go and meet with my colleagues and have that community feel, because I want to sit in the same room all day. I want to be able to walk around the office, go for lunch with my colleagues, go to a meeting room in person and do this stuff. But I just like having the option of not being able to go or not go. But my job doesn't really need it because it's predominantly a lot of desktop-based activities, and when it's not desktop, I go and test stuff. And every job is truly different and needs that level of Venn diagram. It needs to be remote. I guess it'll be a headache over the next 10 years. So we'll find a balance to sort it out. But I think, someone like yourself sounds like an inspiring leader. That's and not a boss.
Yeah, definitely. I found something interesting when it comes to coaching, making adjustments with people. I can always let you know, James, how amazing you are, and that's great. Let's celebrate the sale you just did. But the real mentor is the one that's earned the respect prior to giving that black and white conversation with somebody that calls the balls and the strikes. I'm not saying you were doing something poorly, but James, you forgot to ask for the email address, remember? And you forgot to mention Mr. Jones that transferred the call. Remember, you got to let Mrs. Jones know how great the guy was. And, there's certain things, soft skills on the phone that you remind people on. Why? Just to make them more self-confident and self-reliant. The luxury of my trade, with yours as well, is that you can't fudge it. So your recording speaks for you, and what you're doing with engineering, the program works for you as well. It either works or it doesn't work. And so when an engineer, a programmer, or linguist can see their work, they can hear it, and it's their stuff, the best way for self-improvement is self-analysis. And so instead of me twisting the knife or reminding you of areas of improvement, it's best that you see it yourself to straighten your own tie. And those are the strongest conversations, because once that happens, it's never done again. But if I keep trying to hit the ball and drag Johnny, we could be having the same conversations a dozen times. And after a while, it gets boring for both you and me to keep doing this. And so I've seen certain things where people lead the dance and they have breakthroughs, or we consider them cracking codes. And all that we're doing is getting to levels with individuals in regards to their mindset and maturity to things like that. But yeah, I've reduced attrition a lot by diffusing people going through a trance or a spiderweb spiral. Almost like a Jerry Maguire movie. I've seen people come in normal, have that weird phone call or something triggers them. Next thing you know, they're F-bombing everyone and quitting. It's the weirdest thing I've ever, like Jekyll and Hyde. They just change.
Well, I think that's a great way of ending the second part of the podcast in terms of your work career. We can go on to the third bit because I'm very conscious of time. So hello and welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to the third section. So Richard, you've been so generous with your knowledge and your sharing of all this incredible experience you've had, and what it's like to work in these environments, and also what it's like to travel and explore, and the social aspects. This kind of part is a review of your time. And the first question I tend to ask my guests is, if you go back to when you first moved abroad, be it to Spain for the year or to Costa Rica, what advice might you give yourself to just make it that bit better, or would you potentially avoid some?
I would definitely give myself the advice of wearing more comfortable shoes. You're going to be doing a lot of walking, hiking, and adventuring. You don't want to be too fancy-dancy. Just make sure it's comfortable so you can make long distances. That's number one. But pack light. I bring extra shirts. You're going to be buying stuff here. You're going to be getting involved in the environment. If anything, just, go to Costa Rica with the pants and shirt you have on and start from there. But once again, I wish I tried certain foods earlier in my trip and certain drinks because I enjoy them so much. I kind of felt like I missed a couple of years of that experience and enjoyment.
And what food and drink might there be that you're talking about that?
Certain sort of seafoods that I haven't tried before and shellfishes and stuff that's exotic. And the fruit is just incredible. Some of like the dragon fruit and other sort of things you can have here that are fresh. Mamones are interesting. It looks like alien food. It's got all these little, it's like red with these little things, hairs that are coming out of it. You open it up and eat in the middle. It's something you'd never want to touch, but when you eat it, you're addicted to them. You know, things like that, my friend. I also like nasa con sirope. It's a really sweet drink that I enjoy that helps your stomach. So I wish I took that earlier too.
That's incredible. And then what advice might you give to someone who would like to leave the US, live anywhere in the world? What might you tell them to do?
Obviously, I'm not going to sound like a lecturing parent, but I think someone needs to do some sort of due diligence on where you're going. How about this? Let's get real for a second. Watch the movie Midnight Express. Don't get locked up abroad. Don't break the laws where you go to jail or get someone that kicks your ass at 4 a.m. somewhere and robs you or just gives you a terrible experience. I've seen people here that have partied a little too hard with the wrong people at the wrong time and that got them in trouble, or they become too adventurous. So kind of like skiers that get off of paths and get lost or hurt in avalanches, people will go off of certain paths and may find trouble. And so you once again, you're in an environment like the ocean. When you go in the ocean, there are riptides. There's certain things you need to respect. And there's environments here with snakes and spiders and certain sort of frogs. There's venomous creatures here that could literally hurt you. So if you're walking around with flip-flops, your whiskey, having fun in the rainforest, look down. You never know. And so that would be advice for people too, that I want them to have a great time, but not too good of a time where it affects your experience.
No, I think that is such an interesting viewpoint. No one's really said that, I don't think, on the podcast so far. At least I've not remembered it being quite a few podcasts now, but they've always just said do it and make the most of it and be more adventurous. I kind of agree with that to some extent, but then I think from what you're saying, it's yes, be adventurous, but also be respectful and be a bit street smart. You know, understand where you are and take in the surrounding information you have and make an educated decision of whether you could go do this more cool thing over there, but what does that mean? Might it be with a dangerous crowd or whatever it might be? Don't do something stupid, perhaps. There's still just some things that are fun and cool and exciting, but the level of stupidity you need to avoid before you become another statistic.
Think about Amsterdam. What you have in Amsterdam, leave in Amsterdam, or gifted in Amsterdam. That's what you do. You don't bring things with you on the Eurail, or you're trying to get into Czechoslovakia. What the hell is wrong with you? I mean, there are some people that would really party on the trains, and that would take these chances with hash and stuff, and I would walk away, far away. It's not the time and the place for stupid things like that with stupid people. And that's all. I'm not trying to, as mentioned before, I'm not trying to sound like a lecturing parent, but the last thing you want is to get arrested.
Sure, yeah. I was just saying, is there anything else you wish to share about your life abroad in terms of, things you've done, achieved, proud of? We kind of covered most of it in the segments we talked about already.
And James, I can't thank you enough. Let me wrap this up in one big bow. Just don't be hard on yourself. Expect everything and nothing. And if you get something, be appreciative. And the craziest things are the little things will mean the world to you, and the things you expected so much and paid top money for will disappoint you. And so, but it's not for everybody. You miss your family. There's certain luxuries you have at home and things that you're familiar with. But I've been out of the country for over 2 decades, so I'm not used to that anymore. It's a novelty for me. And I like to bounce in and bounce out. My life is here. I've slowed it down, brought things in, and I like this pace. I think that I'm going to live longer this way. And when people see me, they say, you look good, you look healthy. And I say, Yeah, because I'm being true. If you don't have a heavy heart and a heavy mind, you can really live well and you'll feel better. And so also just test things first before diving into it. Maybe try it for a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month, right? And see if it's something that you do like. Because a lot of people will rush. They'll just sell everything, pack up everything, move here and try. And it's okay. Sometimes it works. But that wouldn't have worked for me. I needed to live with people. I needed to see things. I couldn't have just come down here and bought a house. I wouldn't have had the friends that I met and the experiences that I got. And so there's nothing wrong with going old school. And some of the best experiences you have are in these hotels or hostels or community areas where people just are in a sharing mood. They're not isolated. These are the times now not to be isolated. And if you're looking to be abroad, the last thing, it's almost like that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think it was like The Island, or no, The Beach, I think is what it was. So he's in this exotic, beautiful area. These people sitting around looking at a television set. It's kind of like me. I'll see people staring at they're in front of the ocean or waterfall. It's not like they're taking a picture or looking up info. They're Instagramming or they're doing Candy Crush or something. And so, I don't know. I don't want to, as you say earlier, force people to open doors and say thank you and be polite. And I'm not going to force somebody to drink Life Jam. If they're here and they want to do it, I support them. If they're here and they're disturbing others, I do not support them. And I think they might be at the wrong place at the wrong time. But don't let naysayers and gray believers influence you. I think you should live your own life. And if it's something that, as I say, you have honorable intentions and do good things, then by all means, you should follow through with it.
Well, I think, yeah, I just want to thank you to you for the amazing energy which kind of brought to this conversation. It's infectious. And I mean that in a wonderful way in terms of, since we started talking, I finished a full day of work today. The energy I get talking with you and really kind of being a third fan warning in your story has really inspired me to go, I'm going to go to Costa Rica now and see what it's like.
Yeah, man, I got questions.
Thank you for really throwing yourself into this call, and guests like yourself really do make the podcast. I've made the whole experience for me. So yeah, please, I just want to thank you for that. And really,
my last suggestion for any American that's planning on moving to England, especially London, like I said, the due diligence, you should watch Keeping Up Appearances with Hyacinth UK or Bucket, whichever way you're going to do it. Because if you watch that, you'll learn the English culture. Then you'll be able to, like you say, with friends. Then I can learn how to get along in England. You know what I mean? What a great show with Riparian Entertainment and Onslow and Daisy and Rose. I loved that show. So anyway, I had to give a plug to Keeping Up Appearances.
No, you should also watch Faulty Towers too. That's also incredible.
Yeah, man. James, thanks, pal. Had a great time.
Yeah, thank you. And if you have enjoyed the podcast and you have found something really insightful, please do give it a share. Please do let your friends know about it. Please do, support us by following and listening to more great amazing stories from these people. And yeah, thank you, Richard, for your time, and look forward to hearing from you in the future.